Hello and welcome to the Queen of Hearts and to the Astrology for August 2023. This is the full-length version. You can find the quick version if you're into that on my Instagram at Queen of Hearts Astrology _. So let's dive right in. Now, this is a really interesting month. I feel quite optimistic that if you use this energy well, you can get a lot done. You can make changes that really need to be made. There needs to be an air of flexibility. You know, we need to be able to lean into that. We need to be able to lean into, the concept of changing the woodwork, changing the groundwork, changing what isn't working. You know, there is a reflective gaze, and that's going to be building across the month as well. There is a lot of energy available to actually get the things that you've been thinking about, things you've been computing in your head, your ideas, your plans, out onto paper, out into practical things around you. You know, this could be as simple as like doing the work around your house that you've been meaning to do, or cleaning out that like grotty closet that's just been sitting there sort of festering that you've been avoiding, but it's been taking up real estate in your brain. Okay. So there is a lot of energy for tidying up, for cleaning up, for clearing, as well as, you know, for sorting things out. Now, there is an element of tension as well this month because Mercury is going to be coming quite close together with Mars. Now, Mercury has just moved into its home sign of Virgo, where it's incredibly strong. It's got rulership by exaltation and domicile, which really just indicates that this planet can do mercurial things very well, which is good for you if you're trying to write a book or, edit a website or launch a business. Maybe you're having to have, some kind of important communication with someone, or you want to get your message across clearly. You know, having Mercury so strong is really helpful. Now, the thing is though, when Mercury is so strong, like all things, when we look at the medical astrology side of Mercury, when a planet is excess or incredibly strong, we look at this in the chart and sometimes we can see a number. Like we can look at the chart and we can see Mercury has like 25 points, let's just say, because of its strength. It's given all these points, but that can indicate excess problems. Okay, now this is not going to afflict everybody, but if you are already inclined to nervousness or overthinking, anxiety, insomnia, being very nitpicky and pensive, then it's possible, if this Mercury in Virgo ties into your stuff in your chart, that this could add extra to that. Now, that's why it's important to think about some certain lifestyle things that you can bring in to moderate this potentially hyperactive, incredibly efficient Mercury, because having a lot of thoughts is good if they've got a channel and an expression, but remembering Mercury is in Virgo. Okay, so it's not just about, ideally anyway, it's not just about having those thoughts up here, but it's about embodying them in the earth. It's about planting that garden, either metaphorically or in real life. So if we can connect our thoughts with action, and the thing is, Mercury is going to be co-present with Mars. It's going to be conjunct Mars, or it already is heading that way. So this is twofold. It's going to give us the opportunity to put those thoughts into action. We may get busier. We may notice that we are more able to walk our talk. We have these ideas and suddenly they're starting to take seed. The converse or problematic part of this is that because Mercury is with Mars, and Mercury with Mars can bring, disruption to communication. It can bring arguments. It can bring inflammation to debate. We can see that is the negative side of things. So, the crux of it is, trying to be clever, but not too clever, still keep your humility about you. Trying to remember that while you have a head, you also have a heart, and trying to come back to that heart-centered place as well sometimes, because with too much energy up here, some of these other parts of us can be forgotten. Okay, so that's an important takeaway when it comes to Mercury through Virgo. And it's going to be there for an extended length of time because it's going to go retrograde on the 24th of the 24th. Yeah, the 24th of the month. Now, we're going to talk about that later. So we enter the month with Mercury in Virgo, okay, and I'm pretty happy about that because I've got Mercury in Capricorn and it's sending this beautiful trine to my Mercury and waking it up out of the 12th house where my Mercury is like sleeping a lot of the time. Well, not really, but it's just calm and needs a bit of a zing. Now, Mars is already in Virgo and has already been there for some time, so you might have been noticing an impetus to do it could be things like home improvements. You might have noticed an impetus to kind of be working on your body, whether it's pumping iron at the gym or tidying up your act with what you're eating. Now, Mars is still a malefic planet in traditional astrology, so Mars can bring inflammations to certain parts of the body. Now, because Virgo connects to our intestines and it also has a connection to our nervous system, when we see Mars in Virgo, we start to see some of these similar patterns around anxiety, around kind of thinking ourselves into a rut of just blah. And our gut health is something that needs to be looked at, because if you've got planets in Virgo, especially if you've got Virgo ruling the 6th house in your chart, or even Virgo ruling the ascendant, because Mars is a malefic, it's going to be going over that area of vitality. You need to pay attention to these things. Make sure you're getting proper sleep. Make sure you're eating properly. Try and limit things like gluten and dairy, and go easy on the sugar, because the gut is going to be the foundation of your thinking, your mental clarity, and your mood. So if your mood's not stable and you're kind of up here and then you're down and you're happy and then you're sad, maybe it's a good idea during this period to look at your diet. Now, I do consults on all this stuff using Chinese medicine, nutrition, and medical astrology. So you can reach out to me on my website at queenofheartsastrology.com if you want to learn more about the ways I can help you. And feel free to contact me if you've got any questions as well. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. So we've entered the month. Okay, we've got Mercury, Virgo, very strong. Okay, dynamic in its home sign and exaltation. And we've also got Venus retrograde. Now, Venus is retrograde in Leo. Okay, so they are actually in signs that are in aversion to one another. They can't see each other, okay, because they're right next door. Now, Venus in Virgo is that, Venus in Leo is that retrospective look back, okay? We're looking back, we are gazing into the past, okay? We may be reworking the way that we relate to other people, okay? We may be reworking the way that we show up as an individual, the way that we shine our light in the world, you know, in relation to our friendships, in relation to our personal relationships. You know, if we're feeling like our relationships have put, like, you know what they say, like putting a basket on the light, you know, like if the relationship feels like it's kind of drowning out the goodness, drowning out your sparkle, then, you know, this is a time when sometimes people might actually break up with partners. So it is that 40-day, 40-night cycle where you are given an opportunity to really go within, okay, and ask yourself questions around your interpersonal connections with other people. So I think it's not, and it's funny because there's certain things that are not advised during Venus retrograde. So things like, you know, making deals with other people, because deals indicate something coming together. And one of the key words for Venus is unification. So, you know, doing some kind of a deal or, you know, making a bond, like say a marriage or a business arrangement with someone else, would probably be better done after the retrograde. Okay. Now, I personally have a photo shoot coming up next week, which is really not great timing because, again, Venus rules aesthetics and photography is all about aesthetics. So I didn't time it that well, but we also can't wait that long. So, I mean, sometimes in life, you'll notice that you just need to get on with it and do that thing, even though the astrology says no. But you can always find an electional chart, or, you know, an electional chart is a start time for an important event that is auspicious. So even if you've got, you know, Venus retrograde, which would be not advised, you could still try and find a decent electional chart. But ultimately, the topic of what we would be electing, which would be about aesthetics and brand and things, would be falling under Venus. So that's not ideal. Anyway, we enter the month with those two. We have discussed Mercury and Venus. Now we also have, here I am, the Sun and the Moon opposite. Now what is this called? This is a full moon. So on the 2nd of the month, we have a full moon in Aquarius, and this is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. Now, this is a very bright time of illumination, and this is connected to your relationships as well, in a way, okay? But the way that you show up in the group. Because full moons are oppositions, it's about understanding the way that you fit into the collective and you fit into your role as yourself, okay? So it's like the us and them thing. Not in the same way as Libra and Aries, but Leo and Aquarius as an oppositional connection, they demonstrate the group, okay, the collective spirit, the masses, as opposed to the leader or the boss or the star of the show, the person who's and I don't mean this in a bad way, but sort of in it for them, you know, they're kind of more focused on the self, because the sun rules Leo and the sun is, you know, the core, like, life-giving part of the universe, whereas Saturn is the rule of Aquarius. And so the Aquarian vibe is sort of more like, well, you know, I'll do this for everybody else, but, you know, and as an Aquarius rising, you know, it's certainly true. So for this full moon, it's a really good time to see how you can contribute to the good of all, but not at the expense of yourself. You know, how can I be part of the group? Do I want to join a new group? And to also use that visibility and that light at the time to really take a look at your connections with other people, the impact you're having on your community, as well as the search for knowledge. Now, this is a very important keyword for Aquarius, okay? Aquarius is a fixed air sign. It's very much about knowledge and about collecting knowledge for the benefit of mankind, okay? So it could be a good time to kind of look into new learning opportunities as well. All right, now there's a lot of energy available on that day because we've got a couple of things happening concurrently, and there could be a need to negotiate or a feeling of you know, potentially feeling like there's a misunderstanding in the communication, okay? Because the ruler of the full moon is Saturn, and Saturn is going to be opposed by Mercury. Now, when Mercury opposes Saturn, this can bring up some misunderstandings. This can bring up some feelings of being kind of left out of the conversation, or, you know, some cold words that could be said. So, you know, the thing about Aquarius is it still is an air sign, and it can be a little bit cutting and detached sometimes. And especially with this Mercury in opposition to Saturn, it's wise at this time to, you know, tune more into what you can do in terms of, you know, maybe helping out in a community or in a group or benefiting, you know, others in this way, rather than actually having conversations and meetings and just getting into the nitty-gritty of the head. Because with Mercury opposite Saturn, it could just get a little bit like, this is not going anywhere. And the energy is really big that day because Mars is going to be trining Jupiter, okay? So there is this real impetus to do something, to change something, and to help something grow, okay? So this is great. And the thing about this full moon that's interesting as well is that not too long after it completes its, you know, exact opposition, you know, where it's at its fullest, it will make a trine to Jupiter. And that is really auspicious, okay? So this does bring up the capacity for almost, you know, making a wish, you know, celebration of how, you know, how far you've come. And also, you know, honoring your individuality, honoring your humanness, including any mistakes that you've made. Okay, so when we're moving on, I want to cover off I want to cover off the next aspect, which I'm interested in, which is Venus square Neptune. Oh, excuse me, Venus square Uranus. Um, Now, Venus retrograde in Leo is going to square Uranus, and there's been this interplay of these two. And this really brings up the theme of dynamic changes happening in the area of our interactions with others. Okay, we could be changing the way that we relate to other people in general. Okay, we might have had some insights that are developing through this Venus retrograde period. But this could also be bringing some sort of sharp shifts or shocks to relationships, which may build around the period leading up to the 9th of August. So, if there's something that's been waiting in the wings to happen, maybe you are in a toxic relationship, or maybe something is sort of it's been a certain way for a long time. Okay, this square is happening across the fixed axis, so it sort of indicates the way things have always been. Oh, I've been with this person a long time, I don't really want to rock the boat. But it's getting to that stage, potentially for some people, if this ties into your natal chart, if this ties into your life circumstances, then you could notice that things could change. They could shift, they could modernize, okay, they could transform. And this is not always bad. We do need to have these shocks and these breakthroughs in order to change. And if something's not working, then change is the order of the day. And this month is all about change. This month is all about change. We've got a lot of, the thing I noticed before is that we've got our planets are all in fixed and mutable signs. We've got no cardinal energy at all until very late in the month. So this indicates that there's the story of the month is very much kind of carved into rock. We've got something that has been unchanging, like we've got something that's been this way for a long old period of time, and this is likely to be connected to our identity, connected to our relationships, and connected to the way that we are out in the world. But because of these connections with, like I've just mentioned, with Venus coming to square Uranus, there is a bit of a spanner in the works, because things need to evolve, and Taurus is an incredibly fixed sign, and that is where Uranus is, which is kind of a bit of a, it's like an oxymoron. We've got our planet of change and variety moving through Taurus, and then Venus in Leo comes and squares that, and it's said, okay, it's time for something to really shift. Okay, so as we carry on, we have another really beautiful, and I think that is beautiful because we do need that kind of upgrade. But we have an opportunity and an auspicious day on the 13th of August. Now, this is when the sun comes into, it's when Venus retrograde comes into the heart of the sun, something known as cazimi in astrology. Now, this is because the sun is regarded as the king in astrology, okay? It's regarded as that seat of consciousness. When planets come very close to the heart of the sun, so within 1 degree, or even less than that, depending on the type of astrology you're into, those planets are imbued with like awareness. They're imbued with a fresh start. It's like something is, some secret is revealed, or some code cracked. So this could be a time when, just a couple of days before we had that square, so the relationship could have fractured, the relationship could have changed course, you might have had a break from that person or those people. But then when the sun and Venus come together and Venus enters into the heart of the sun, which is exact on the 13th, you could have a fresh spark of insight about what this means. What is this journey about for you? Why have you, been with this person for so long? Or why is that friendship group so hard to walk away from? So use this period to really connect with what this Venus retrograde means for you, this cazimi moment. It'll be lasting over, most of the day on the 13th of August. So as we progress, the next things I wanted to talk to you about, and it's a really busy old month, so don't mind me consulting my notes here. New moon is on the 16th of August in Leo. Now, this is really quite cool because we've got that Venus retrograde moving through Leo, and then it's doing its beautiful thing with the sun. So it's coming into the heart of the sun. And then only 3 days later, we have a fresh new opportunity for growth. And that growth is all about you. You know, it's all about the sunny side up. I'm going to call this new moon a change to the sunny side up. Okay. But change is the big old part of it. Because not only is this new moon in Leo, where Venus is retrograde, but this new moon is square Uranus. Okay, so there's more Uranian action. So you could expect a few additional plot changes, you know, like little, like, oh, what's happened here? But, you know, if you want to upgrade your relationships, if you want to upgrade your appreciation of beauty around you, you know, maybe you want to become a poet or something. I know that Mercury is incredibly strong as well. So this could be an interesting time, you know, if you fancy kind of getting into beauty, you know, the beauty of words, the beauty of nature. But planting seeds, you know, this is a really creative new moon. Okay, new moon in Leo. It's about tapping into your desire. It's about tapping into your like your passion. You know, this is a fire sign. This is choleric. Okay, so it's sort of like allowing yourself to be a bit brash, you know, like about what it is that you've discovered about yourself, and remembering it's just a tiny little seed at this stage. So, you know, you don't have to necessarily know what comes next, because you could have had a big shift or a series of shifts, as this month would infer. But this part is to really just say, well, maybe the slate's blank, and I'm just sitting with the fire of my own being, you know, that inspiration, which I really connect strongly to fire signs, you know, it's just like that spark. But something is being cultivated now, which is likely to endure. Okay, it's likely to endure, especially if it's something different and it's something fresh and unique and exciting for you that lights you up. That's what we're seeking at this new moon. And because it's a new moon in Leo, which is a fixed sign, it is likely to kind of carry on, although the aspect is square to Uranus. So, you know, just try and make it interesting. Be a little bit bold. Now on the same day, we also have more encouragement from Mars. Okay, Mars is trining Uranus on the same day. So again, it's just like it's adding fuel to that shift. It's adding momentum to, you know, maybe there's something that you really haven't felt like you've had the confidence to do, that you really need to do. That's really important to nourishing, you know, the part of you, like your heart, and you know, making you feel as genuinely you as you could be. You know, there's something that's been waiting, even if it's just like, you know, maybe leaving a relationship or walking away from a job or an agreement or something like that. And this is really what you've needed to do for ages and you didn't have the confidence, but now, you know, this could be a breakthrough time, you know, in this period where you can actually do it. So, I'm curious to see how that pans out for people. Now, what else do we have? Another really beautiful auspicious date for you, okay, the 22nd of August. You know, you can kind of stretch that out a little bit either side. Venus retrograde is doing more things by aspect. It's going to be squaring Jupiter. And this is another fixed sign combo, okay? This is like a wish. I always see these two when they come together, it's like making a wish. So if things have been tricky, you know, or if things have been a little bit like hold on to your hat, like so much change is happening, how do we even orientate ourselves? When Venus comes to Jupiter, this is an opportunity for healing. Okay, this is an opportunity for righting any wrongs. This is an opportunity for getting people together and having a good time. You know, it's got that really festive, fun, celebratory energy. So the 22nd of August is when that happens, and I really encourage you, you know, to use that opportunity to just like enjoy life, really revel in how far you've come, and just tune into what you want what you want commitment to look like for you. Okay, these two are coming together in fixed signs. you might have thrown caution to the wind. Maybe you've thrown some things out of your life, but maybe there are some things that you really want to bring in and you want to celebrate and you want this to be your new way forward. This is a good time to lean into that. Okay, now we have a little bit of a wily one the next day. We've got Mars opposite Neptune. Now that will be felt leading up to this period as well. So while we've got our lucky aspect the previous day, we're still going to have this little bit of a slippery, potentially, like, I don't like to say deceitful, but you know, Mars Neptune can be a little bit like there's a kink in the plan, you know, like someone might be operating with ill purposes, or maybe the messaging is a little bit out. You know, this could be good for maybe, I'm trying to think. I was going to say crime. Mars opposite Neptune. If you're a criminal, probably, you know, it's definitely a time that would talk to that. I guess just be mindful, you know, if this aspect ties into your natal chart, this is happening in very late degrees of mutable signs. So, you know, you might just notice that your boundaries are weak. You know, you might notice that you're kind of prone to other people taking advantage of you or manipulating you or being deceived. You know, this combo is a little bit like that. You know, in a more positive way, perhaps you could lean into this in terms of trying to master like a spiritual practice or something, like putting a lot of energy into, you know, maybe you want to go and join a monastery for a week or something, and work on the discipline of that. I don't know, this is a strange aspect. And then Mars also will trine Pluto. So it's sort of like there's something kind of about the way that we're operating that might need to be checked. You know, we might need to just make sure we're operating from integrity. So it could be a good opportunity to just, you know, cross-check all that, cross-check our motivation at the end of August. Now, there is just the day after Mars is opposite Neptune, which is that sort of little bit of a rose-colored glasses kind of dodgy time, perhaps. We get at the station of Mercury retrograde, which everyone loves to chat about. It is pretty common, but this one is happening in Virgo. It's going to be stationing at 21 degrees of Virgo, so pay attention if you've got anything in mutable signs. So mutable signs are Virgo, Gemini, Pisces, and Sagittarius. That could be indicating that you might have a little bit more of this Mercury retrograde stuff going on in your life. So, you know, there could be some more disruptions or some more opportunities for you to improve things as Mercury goes back. Now, Mercury in Virgo is obviously incredibly strong, but when it goes retrograde, it's sort of going to be going back over territory that you've covered. So if there's something new you want to start, like when you're listening to this video at the start of the month, I encourage you start that now before Mercury goes retrograde. We've got quite a lot of good intel, good access to our mental faculties now, and it's good to lay the groundwork with Mercury in Virgo. But when Mercury goes retrograde on the 24th, and leading into that in the shadow phase, we could start to see disruptions and kinks in the program. So do that sooner rather than later. If you are setting something up, if you are finding the groundwork now, do it, because you're still going to need to go through that review process, which is what Mercury retrograde indicates. So again, the quick sticks version is don't sign contracts if possible. You know, try not to move house, try not to do an important deal. Maybe avoid, you know, too much media stuff, internet stuff, editing stuff. The thing is, in a way, editing is encouraged at that point because it's got that reflection and looking back over something you've already done. But it's just, there is a tendency or a possibility that Mercury retrograde can kind of lead to things going a little bit topsy-turvy, or Mercury not being as strong. But I'm less concerned because when Mercury is in Virgo, it is already quite powerful. So, you know, just use this process to kind of make improvements. You know, an example would be, you know, write the website now, and then when it's time for Mercury retrograde, it's time to go back over that content and just, you know, fine tune everything so that when it goes direct, which will not be until like mid-September, no, even later than that, Yeah, then you can actually implement your changes. So yes, I have a couple more final things to wrap up. I know this is incredibly long, but I'm just happy for you to fast forward as you like. Yeah, so Mercury goes direct on the 16th of September. So again, if you can hold off doing any kind of new things until at least mid, but preferably late September. Okay, now the final thing I wanted to say is twofold. Okay, we have the sun that moves into Virgo, and this is late of the month, so the 23rd of the month. Then we have ourselves Mars, who leaves Virgo after its stint through there and moves into Libra. Now, Libra is an interesting place for Mars. Okay, we might feel motivated at this time to tune more into Venusian topics. So we might want to take up some kind of hobby, that is artsy, or we might want to start doing dance. I've got Mars in Libra, and I actually used to do martial arts, which is interesting because there is an arts factor of that. Mars is not in Mars territory when it's in Libra, so that's why the traditional astrologers classified it as being in detriment. Planets in detriment do operate differently to planets when they're in their home sign. So Mars may feel a little bit sort of less able to be direct, might be a little bit more indecisive, or we might notice sort of a little bit more passive aggressive behavior. Maybe it's just as simple as needing to make sure you're putting your own needs on the table as well as looking after everybody else. That can be a big Mars and Libra problem, just like wanting to keep everyone happy, people pleasing. All these things are things to avoid with the motion of Mars into Libra. But that will bring some cardinal energy. So what is interesting about that is we've had everything in mutable and fixed signs, okay, which mutable is all about change and variation, versatility, and kind of, doing that, doing the testing, like, oh yeah, does this work? No, I'm going to try that. I'm going to shift it to that. Then the fixed sign is like, well, I've figured out what works. I've let go of what doesn't. I'm going to stick to this program, like moving forward. But then the cardinal, which is when this Mars enters into Libra, it's like, okay, I've got that idea. I know how to connect with people now, because it's a feminine sign. It's a masculine sign, but it's a humane sign. So it's very much orientated around reaching people, so you might have an idea about how you can grow your social media, or how you can target your business idea, or how you can start a new project to help people. But this is all about beginnings. Okay, so when Mars moves into Libra, you might actually grab the reins and say, okay, something new. There's something new starting. So yeah, this is interesting. Again, remember, Mercury is still going to be retrograde. Venus is still going to be retrograde at this time. So I would advise you to hold off on starting anything at the end of August, and wait until, end of September if you can. But use this momentum to get your ideas down. Use this momentum, use this these fresh ideas that are coming in to give you energy and inspiration at this time. So yeah, and the final part of this report, we have a full moon at the end of the month on the 31st of August, which is very rare. That's 2 full moons in 1 month. This is a watery full moon in Pisces. It's classified as a blue moon because of the old saying, once in a blue moon, because they really don't happen very often. And this full moon is, it's another mutable sign. Okay, so this is going to be a sensitive one. I suggest you use this for, if you're into any kind of spiritual practices or cultivation or meditation. I guess it could also work if you're into parties and festivals and things like that. Pisces is under the rulership of Jupiter. And so this can be a really good time to just connect with yourself, connect with others, and to tune into like the worlds within worlds, get a little bit trippy, get a little bit get a bit curious about other dimensions. Because our most sort of our most furthest out, this makes not much sense, our furthest out in terms of like most broad, open-minded, open-hearted sign is Pisces. You know, it's ruled by Jupiter, which is incredibly expansive, but not just that, it's water, so it spreads right out. It feels everything. So again, if you're sensitive and you're really porous energetically to other people, you know, you might want to take it easy because you could get triggered. You could get like feelings that aren't yours. You know, often we can import these feelings from other people if we're quite strong in the Piscean part. You know, we might have a lot of planets in Pisces, and we might go out to a party and suddenly start to feel something and think it's us, and actually we've picked up on the vibe of the whole place. So use this time carefully, but it is a beautiful opportunity for healing. It's a beautiful time to connect to all that is, the majesty, the mystery of the universe. Yeah, if you're into any kind of journeys, whether it's physical or you know, psychedelic, this is potentially a very powerful time to take that. So yeah, take a journey. And also things like music and arts are beautiful for this Pisces full moon. So yeah, it's a really interesting month. I'm keen to see how it plays out. If you have any questions or if you would like to book in for a session, come and find me at queenofheartsastrology.com. Thank you.